This is going to be a long rambling video, but I wanted to do a video response to Ohio Alone. He's trying to restore an old wood stove, and he had some questions about it. And I have something here that I wanted to show you that I'm sure most people wouldn't think about. This is an old potbelly stove that used to belong to my husband's grandfather. When we first got married, we had an old house that should have been condemned. I mean, it didn't have any source of heat, didn't have anything, didn't even have a kitchen sink. Um, so we got this stove, and that's what we used for heat the first 3 years we were married. And I tell you, a lot of people have some romantic notions about going off grid and using wood for heat and cooking and all. And I'm gonna tell you, it's hard work. It's not fun feeding a fire constantly. And I thought we were going to freeze to death. And our winters aren't that cold or that long here. And I swore that if I ever got a house with heat, I'd never burn another stick of wood. And I'm really not looking forward to going back to something like that if that's where we're headed. But anyways, here's the rambling explanation. Over the years, I've collected Victorian trade cards, and these are cards that companies used to advertise their products in the late 1800s. And I not only collected the cards, but I also collected the products that they advertised. And this one here advertised stove polish. So I managed to buy a bar of that stove polish. And when I bought it, there were some holes in the package. So I took some of the stove polish that had leaked out. I've covered it with plastic now so that it won't fall out. But I took some of the stove polish, and you're supposed to mix it with a little water. And I used it on one spot on this stove just to see how it would work. And as you can see, this old stove has quite a bit of rust on it. And I polished this spot right here with that old stove polish. And I did that 10 years ago, and it still looks good. So I am very impressed with this old stove polish, and I'll bet you anything you can't buy anything that is like that these days. And oddly enough, it's not that rare. You can usually find some of this type of stove polish on eBay. In fact, there's a bar on there right now. I mean, it would be a shame to use this particular bar because this is from the late 1800s. But you'll often see another brand on there called Rising Sun, and it looks like it's the exact same thing. And if the Rising Sun was made by Morse Brothers, then it's from the late 1800s. But if it's made by Prescott, it's made sometime after 1908. And I wouldn't feel so bad about actually using a bar of that on a stove. If it were me, I would just buy a bar of it and save the package for its antique value. In fact, that's what I planned on doing with this stove. I just have never gotten around to doing it. But that's an option for you there. I wouldn't paint the stove. I would get some of that stove polish, and it's like it just took the rust right off. And it does a beautiful job. And you can get it for, right now there's a bar on there, and I think there's an $8 bid on it. Like I said, those Prescott bars show up pretty often. So if you miss it, it's not like it's the end of the world. But that's an option for you that a lot of people wouldn't think of. And if I was going to paint the stove, the top of my chest freezer had rusted real bad, and I sanded the rust off as best I could, and then I treated it with this phosphoric Prep-A-Netch. And I don't know if this is flammable or not. That would be something you need to look into. But after I got the majority of the rust off, then you mix some of this with water and then paint it on, and it neutralizes the rust and it turns it black, and then you can paint over it. And it's been a couple of years since I did that, and I haven't had any rust bleed through the paint since I did it. So this Prep and Etch does a beautiful job. So if I was going to paint the stove, then I would look into treating it with this Prep and Etch first. And I have another stove here I'll show you. Okay, this is another stove that I have. I have more stoves than anybody has a right to, because I also have a stove like the one that you're working on. But I ran across this one. I had called a man on Craigslist about something he had for sale, and when I got there, he had several sheds crammed full of stuff like this for sale. And when I first saw this little stove, I didn't think that it would work because the wood box is so small on it. But after I got home, I asked a woman on the internet that I know that uses a wood stove that if that wood box is supposed to be that small. She said, yeah, they have small wood box. So I ran back the next day and I bought it. It was only $100. So I'm sure this is a reproduction. It's not an original stove, but it has an oven in it. And several months ago, I did a video about an idea that I was going to try to build a rocket stove / oven. And I've had people write and ask me if I had ever built it, but I didn't because I have this stove now. I don't need the rocket stove. But I also promised people that I would show them this and explain how it works, because if you're building a stove, this concept might be helpful to you. But here's the oven, and then there's the wood box. As you see, it's a very small. It's about the size of a loaf of bread. And here's you build your fire in that wood box, and here's the roof of the oven. And when you build the fire rolls across this the edge here and through this chamber, and then it goes up the chimney. And that puts the fire right up here at the cooking surface, and then as it rolls across through this chamber, it heats the oven below. And it's a pretty neat design, because I'd never knew how they worked before, never really gave it much thought. And so if you're building a stove, then you need one with an oven in it. This is the way they did it, and it's pretty cool. And then it has the door here where you can get to the wood box. And it has a thing where you can adjust the air going into it. And then there's a clean out down here. That's the little cook stove that I got. And see, I didn't understand the difference between a wood stove and a cook stove, but that's the difference. The cook stoves, you just use a little fire to just in order to have it produce enough heat to cook with. You don't want to heat the entire house with it. You just need a small fire for it. But with this one, this stove was painted. And I really wish that somebody hadn't have painted it, because there's some rust underneath the paint in places, and it's like cracking up and chipping. So I've been trying to clean this stove up. I haven't worked on it in a while, but I've been using this wire brush on it and some stove polish that I bought from Lowe's, and it's a paste. And I'm not real thrilled with this stove polish, especially since I know the difference with the old polish. But this one, as you can see everywhere I've touched this stove, I'm getting that polish all over me. And I'm hoping that when I finish cleaning it up and fire it up, that paste will cook into the cast iron. but I don't know at this point. But like I said, I recommend the antique polish over this at this point. And I was wondering if um, any of you know the answer to this. I'd like to drill a hole in this door so that I could put a thermometer on it, but I don't know if there's any special procedures you have to use for drilling into cast iron. Is there a special bit, or would I risk cracking this door, or just how would I go about that? Because I'd really like to put a thermometer on it. There's a little hole here, but that lip there gets in the way, so I can't use it. And this is a pretty neat little stove, and it has this little pedal. You can kick that and the door opens. And I thought that was right cute. So that's the stove that I have and plan on cooking with, and that's the reason I haven't done the rocket stove thing. So hope it helps.